Hi everyone, and welcome to our webinar on building a resilient manufacturing future. We'll just give everyone a minute or so to join before we get started. So you're always working outside, Mark, or you got a little den that you hide away in?
No, pretty much about 10 and a half, 11 months of the year, I'm outside.
Ah, glorious. That is nice. It gets a bit chilly down here. Can't do that.
I mean, look, don't get me wrong. It can be a little chilly when you're doing this in August or June.
Yeah.
But I've grown used to it to the point where it just doesn't feel as natural being inside anymore.
Just put a jacket on. I'll give you about 30 seconds. Everyone joining, we're just giving everyone a few seconds more to join and we'll get started. All right, we might get into it, Mark, and this is recorded, so if any of your colleagues were jumping on, we'll be able to share that later. But yeah, very excited to talk through this this subject. It's paramount these days to make sure you're across your stock, you trust the data, and you've got the right tools in place to make those strategic decisions. So really excited today to present alongside Netstock. So I'll get Mark to introduce himself shortly. But yeah, of course, with NetSuite, as you invest and grow yourselves, there's always good options out there to make your solution much easier to consume for your users and to make those key decisions. So really excited for you to see what Netstock has to offer in this space. In terms of an agenda today, so a bit about NetSuite and Annexa, and then we'll talk through Netstock. There'll be a demo as well, so you better get a real good feel for the system. But of course, as always with these sessions, we're really keen to get in front of you and talk through your specific requirements, so we can tailor what you see today for your particular business. In terms of a bit of housekeeping, so if you've not used this forum before, you've got a chat box up in your top right where you can just ask questions that we can address throughout. We'll also use a poll function, so there'll be a couple of polls just to get a feel for who's the audience out there and how you're running your business today. So please join in so we get the best out of that. And then, yeah, we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end as well if we don't get around to it. Today, you'll be hearing, of course, from myself and Ananda Iyer. For those who don't know me, I look after our customer success team here at Annexa. So supporting about 140 odd customers across ANZ. And once you're live and using NetSuite and figuring out what's your roadmap moving forward. Mark, do you want to give yourself a bit of a spiel, please?
Sure. So, yeah, Mark Hopkins. I'm our global VP for professional services here at Netstock. We pride ourselves in not just looking after our customers during an onboarding, but also being able to help as businesses both grow and mature and their needs change. We help them adjust to different types of planning, whether they're acquiring a new business or whether they're setting up a new site. So I've got a team of people who help do that and help businesses grow their teams and grow their team's capability.
Perfect. Thanks, Mark. A little bit about Annexa. So we've been around quite a long time. We've got a team that's ever growing. I think it's around 70 now across ANZ and now in Asia. We've been in the NetSuite game for about 12 years now, dedicated to NetSuite for the last 12 years and really working with our customers to make sure they've got the best out of their investment with NetSuite. And the real key is to, as you're going to see today, building out partnerships with companies like Netstock that offer that best of breed solution for you to expand your capabilities. And yeah, lucky enough to win a few awards. So NetSuite themselves have recognized that we are that partner that does look beyond just NetSuite's capabilities and make sure we can support your full end-to-end business. Over to you, Mark, to introduce Netstock and show us how it works.
Sure. Thanks, Ananda. So yes, we've Netstock's been is a team of people who've been in the inventory space for decades, but we've been proud to have been working with Anexa for several years now and have a variety of customers across a variety of different types of businesses. And of course, today we'll be talking about manufacturing. In terms of our customer base, just within Australia alone, we've got $17 billion worth of inventory that's managed through our tool. And, let's just call it hundreds of years. I don't want to admit how many of this I might represent, but, our team is represented in Australia, the UK, Europe, South Africa, the US, and, I think we're over 150 people strong now. And 2,200 plus companies. So really, just in terms of how Netstock itself works, it's connecting up to NetSuite automatically every night so that we can get the status of your business, whether that's your purchase orders, inventory, manufacturing work orders, transfer orders, etc., along with your sales history and purchase order history, so that when you come into the morning, you actually have an updated dashboard telling you the status in your business. That makes it easy for your team to understand the status of what's at risk, what you need to buy, status of your forecasts, how they're tracking, and then those recommended orders, like I said, whether that's purchase order, transfer order, or work order. So in terms of what Netstock, well, Netstock is there for planning, right? And that is a management tool that allows you to get your inventory policy right, generating those recommended orders in line with the way that your business is set up, and help you track against that, and ultimately give you that projection into the future, which is helpful not just for the planning team in terms of rate purchases, but also, from that financial management point of view regarding how much you're expected to spend, how much you're expected to sell in the year ahead. Now, that's a management tool, as opposed to, obviously, NetSuite is still going to continue to be your transactional stuff. Netstock is not here to do the inventory control or manage the physical product or those transactional type of operations. So, ultimately, what's the goal? Well, the goal is to give you that improved visibility, improve your outbound fulfillment rate, help you understand where you've got too much, too little, so that you're continually optimizing your stock. You're much less likely to forget about stuff off in the corner because you've got the visibility of it. You've got the visibility as to what's selling, what's not selling, and where you can take action to have a financial impact on your business. And then ultimately, we certainly have plenty of experience with businesses that start by thinking that they have a robust forecasting process, but they actually don't necessarily have much of a process. And by putting it in a tool, it's more easily able to make it measured. What gets measured gets managed, and that's really ultimately what we're about. So, like we said, we're not just supply chain. We're not just dealing with Anexa about manufacturing. We work with a variety of companies, whether they're in distribution or wholesale, retail, or manufacturing. And you can see a couple different quotes there about how customers have successfully driven down their inventory, improved their outbound fulfillment rate. So of course, getting those two of those together really multiplies the impact. And certainly another quote there, you can see customer talking about sort of what it was like to try and navigate through COVID, right? Having a tool where you're dealing with some of the most significant supply chain disruptions we've seen in decades really help businesses much more successfully navigate that. So with that in mind, I want to try and jump into the software itself. Before I do, I think we've got a poll that we might be able to put up just to understand the nature of some of the people who are in the customer base. You have that poll at hand. There we go. It gives people a moment or two to try and answer that poll. You can see that's on the right-hand side of the screen there. gives people another answer. Ananda, is everybody able to see that? I don't know if it.
Yeah, it looks like finance is leading the race at the moment.
Okay, great.
And they've got planning as well. So yeah, a bit of mix of planning and finance in the room.
Sure. So
no one just observing on the wall today. Very focused audience.
And
we have one fly on the wall.
We got one fly on the wall. That's
Perfect.
Good to know.
Needed one.
Yeah. Well done. So certainly in businesses that are manufacturing or any type of business, it's kind of that question as to, are you even classifying your businesses? And one of those points of differences within Netstock is that we believe that classifications, paramount to making sure that you've got the policy set up correctly. And I'll show you more about this matrix in the software. But really, when we think about material, do we really think of all of it the same, right? Do we think of material just in terms of what gets sold? In a manufacturing environment, well, certainly you need to be thinking about those raw materials and how are you going to rank them? And what is the type of impact in those different areas? So I'll just jump in the software now. Give me a second. I'm going to start sharing my screen. And so you can see this is our matrix, right? So we've got things ranked A, B, C, but we've also ranked them low, medium, high. And so this A is the top 80% by value of what you sell. Of course, that value could be cost, it could be margin, it could be sell price. It's a manufacturing environment, so I would, you're going to typically say this is going to be a cost. So the top 80% by value of what's forecasted in your business. Then the next 16%, and then the bottom 4% by value of what you sell. And then low, medium, high, and again, top 80%, next 16, bottom 4. Now, those are able to be changed, right? You can make it 90, 20, 10. You can make it whichever percentages actually work for you in your business. We found that 80, 16, 4 works well, but that would certainly be part of the onboarding process. And then, like I said, we can do it by cost, do it by margin, et cetera, but you can also do it based upon, so certainly when you're thinking about cost, is it based upon the history or is it based upon the future? In general, our customers do it by the forecast, but again, you can use the history, right? So for example, if you're manufacturing spare parts, it might be better to use the history. Our teams have the expertise to have that as part of the onboarding type of discussion. Now, financially, what does this mean, right? So actually you're like, okay, well, these 135 are the top 80% by both volume of units sold and quantity, volume and dollar value of what's sold. But to put this matrix into context, you can actually quickly switch it to demand. And you can see these 135 products are 1.4 million in forecast per month. Whereas this C high material is only $11,000 a month. But it's super high volume, right? Like when you run out of these raw materials, they might be raw materials. Of course, your production line might stop, or your customers might be annoyed because you don't have the cable ties available and you're an electrical wholesaler, right? You don't want to buy cable if you can't secure it with cable ties. And so those are the types of things. And as a result, you might have a different policy depending on where you are in this matrix. And so because these things are super cheap, you can afford to set that fill rate super high. This stuff is super low volume, might be very valuable, but it also might be proprietary, for example. So the business might be able to actually, customers might be willing to wait for that. And therefore, you don't need to invest as much finance into this inventory because people are willing to wait. And of course, this is your bread and butter. You might want to set it to 100, but financially, you would be over-investing, or you can't afford to have that much money tied up in inventory capital. And ultimately, as materials change over time, they naturally change their fill rate settings, and that means they naturally reduce their safety stock, so you're not investing as much. And that adaptive safety stock is key, whether you're in manufacturing or any other type of business. Okay, so that's just a little bit about classification, but how does that kind of apply in the manufacturing environment? Well, certainly we talked about how raw materials need to move through this matrix just like finished goods do, and they do that based upon the forecast. And with that, you get that visibility, right? So here we can see the history of the product. We can see that we can see the forecast of both the bill of materials demand for the raw material, but also the product appears to be selling in its own outright. And now we see a combined demand into the future, which allows for things like the policy that's in here saying, okay, well, it takes us 45 days to get some, it takes this amount. NetStock's calculated the safety stock for you. We'll touch on that today, but I really think that's probably better left to a future demo if you guys would like to understand more. The key point here is that NetStock dynamically adapts the safety stock based upon the classifications we talked about, based upon your actual purchase order history, your actual forecast volatility, so that we are allowing it to bring in the right level of risk management to your company. And if the product's got very low risk, well, then we don't need to invest as much in safety stock. And your team doesn't need to be across the safety stock settings in thousands of materials in a business. So the system automatically generated that forecast. And because we're connected to SAP, of course, we can see, NetSuite. Because we're connected to NetSuite, we're getting all of this bill of materials information from the system every night. We've got forecasts automatically created for all these parts. We understand the ratio. This is 1-to-1. Of course, you could have many to one. You could have WIP materials that are, you can have manufacturing bill of materials that's several layers deep. And then as a result, we can see where the demand's coming from in a given part, right? Most of the demand's coming from this top product. This product has a pretty steady ongoing demand. Then some of these other products are a little bit more sporadic and they're spread out across the year. But because we've got that view, that projection into the future across the year, we're now getting a much better purchasing plan or usage plan for this raw material. And then, of course, we're able to bring it all together in the form of a projection. And we can see this material is currently sitting a little bit high. They've got an inbound purchase order coming in, but over the lead time, that product will drop right into the target range. And the policy that's set up for this business is saying, hey, I want to buy the stock every 2 weeks. And so every 2 weeks, another recommended order will come in. And that is NetStock trying to keep the product in the optimal inventory. And as the forecast increase, of course, 2 weeks worth of stock naturally increases. And then as the forecast decreases, the amount of safety stock naturally decreases. And so NetStock's automatically adjusting and calibrating over time so that your team is actually spending time making decisions as opposed to trying to get information together. So that's kind of like a crash overview of how we're going to take a bomb from your system, explode that, or how we're going to create the forecast and let that flow through. You can see, in a case like this, this product's forecast, let's see how long this has been selling for. This is now the current item. These were the two previous versions. And so like this new version replaced the two ones, like that might be a red shirt, that might be a blue shirt. Now you decided to sell a purple shirt, but the purple shirt's based upon the combined history of red shirt and blue shirt. When I look at the forecast, I can actually see that, right? We would never have a forecast that looked like that if we were just selling this product for the very first time. But with that supersession capability, you can maintain these supersession links in NetSuite and automatically be able to see them in the forecast itself. That's one of those benefits that you get just because NetStock has a built-in integration to NetSuite. So you'll load these bundles that enable some new fields in NetSuite that allow for things like supersessions to be maintained in NetSuite. NetStock automatically downloads that information, and this is kind of a practical result of that. You can see that coming to life in your business. And now with that new forecast, we're getting a better view as to what the plan's going to be for this material. We can see the projection. And of course, with that projection, we saw all the recommended orders into the year ahead. Of course, you can roll that up by supplier. You can see that recommended spend per supplier. And with that recommended spend, you can have better discussions with those suppliers around capacity, around pricing. Are you getting a good deal? So that's just a little bit around, the screen. Of course, all of this type of information is coming right out of NetSuite every night. Hierarchy information that allows you to actually better plan at a more discrete level in your business, assuming you're maintaining that. I've certainly seen some businesses that just have one or two groups, some businesses that go to this level where you see a whole bunch of groups. We can make all of that display in NetStock. We can make that information available in reports that ultimately brings that efficiency and clarity to your reporting when you're trying to get more status information. This is just an alternative product. You can see different product, different supply risk, different forecast, different lead time, and very different safety stock. Absolutely calibrating that on the time. Then just a few more points here. So the next point that I wanted to talk about is after we talk about the classifications and seeing how an individual product's order, now it's actually, you need to be prepared to act on that order, right? Because all of these recommendations result in, is there a recommended order now? Or is there a recommended order in the future? Of course, this system is based upon the 13th of June. So this isn't going to have a recommended order today, but it will have one tomorrow. And that'll come up in just a moment as we look at orders in NetStock. So, So this is the order screen, a specific location. So of course you might have a whole bunch of locations in your business. You might be interested in ordering for your production location. Of course, those orders can take a couple different forms. Is it actually going to be an order for a production line? Or is it going to be an order for a raw material supplier towards that production line? And so that would be, it might be the production location, whereas some of these other locations might be just looking for an order that's going to transfer from the main manufacturing site. But you can see this business set up two different production lines. I've got other customers that might set this up as Work Center 1, Work Center 2, machine, such and such type of mixer, such and such type of packer, and that in that way they can raise their orders efficiently per line and review them at that level, because of course they might have planners that are specific to either particular locations or production lines. So with that in mind, that planner may not actually want to look at everything, right? So whether they're looking at a production line or a material supplier, maybe they're only interested in looking at metal. So they put in this specific product group, they apply that filter. And so of course the number of suppliers reduced, but also the number of materials reduced. And now this order is specific to just metal materials from Dragoon, and that allows them to do that little bit more focused review. Now they might say, well, I've got Chinese New Year coming up, or I've got personal leave coming up. I don't just want to order what I need today. I need to know everything that's going to come up for order, let's say in the next 30 days. So of course that was a very different order. Now that I'm looking 30 days further into the future, my product count changed, my quantity changed, my value changed. And so we've got all these types of enhancements built into the product to make it easier for your team to actually raise an order and review it more quickly. And once that order gets created, you can see it somewhere like right here. Now you can see this is actually an order on a production line. And we can see we've got different types of information available. We can either keep it in a condensed view so we can review a lot of lines quickly, or we can expand it. And there we see things like the different things that impact the timing of the order, like the lead time, like the safety stock, etc. In addition to having our forecast available, this product's just needed from a distribution perspective, which isn't surprising to go from a production location outbound. And if I go over here, I believe I've got, no, actually, let me do Dragoon. Now you can see we're trying to answer, we know that some people are analytical, some people are very visual, some people like the detail. And our screens are really meant to help cater to those different types of users, right? Here I've got some level of information. I can visually see that. I can highlight stuff. I can get to the detail quickly if I want to see it. Just knowing that I have enough black raw material, I've got enough material on hand with inside a lead time, and I've got additional supply on the way. The safety stock, actually, I'm really not covering my safety stock at this point in time, so I probably do want to get more. And then the replenishment cycle, which is when I do order, how much do I order? Do I order a week's worth, a month's worth, or I'm going to order bi-monthly? And so that's what we meant about policy, and we've got the capability to set all that very specific, whether we're doing it by supplier, by production line, or by the classifications that we talked about in the beginning. So, and you can also see we're taking in the constraints, right? When we looked at these different materials earlier, we can see that minimum order quantity is built right in there into the recommendation and the order multiple. And of course, in your business, they may not be the same, right? You have to order a shipping container to get started, but maybe then you have to order by the pallet thereafter, or whatever the case may be in your business. Of course, if you don't have anything there, we're going to assume that it's one, and then we're just going to use whatever the replenishment cycle policy is in your business. Now, that's an awful lot to take in. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just try and go back to the sort of summary information for a couple minutes, and then we'll open it up for questions. So you can see we've got all this information. We've also got supplier level views. So I've got the whole list of suppliers here. I chose to drill into one specific supplier, and you can see the status. This is how much we've been spending with this supplier. This is how much is currently overdue. That's what's coming in inbound over the months to come. But in addition to all that, this is how much we're going to be spending with Dragoon in the year ahead. So we can look at that in several different views. And if I wanted to get to the detail, because perhaps I'm asking the purchasing team, hey, how much are you going to spend? I can now very quickly get that overview. And of course, this is a demo system. We're only seeing one product. Of course, you might see literally dozens or hundreds of products, depending on the size of your particular business. But now you've got a much better conversation to have with the vendor around their capability to meet your needs. And if this is going to be a significant expansion, well, of course, you've got information to have a much better, more productive conversation around where you think demand's going to go and how you'd like that supplier to potentially lower some pricing or improve their lead time, etc. Naturally, there's lots more functionality. There's other things we do in manufacturing around extra reporting, some very specific policies that maybe aren't just recommended in the policy table that we saw at the beginning. Different ability to set product-specific policy, location-specific policy, or temporary changes in any of these different configurations that allow your team to more productively get to the point where they're making decisions, not just compiling information. Now, I'm hoping that I'll hit the right level of detail with you guys. And by all means, we could talk more about the dashboards and more information. But I guess I'd like to, Ananda, do we have another poll question?
We just had a question actually come through while you're on these screens. So, been through a NetSuite implementation, have set up some other apps as well. Just keen to understand how much are we seeing here is already configured and it's just literally being populated by the data that I've maintained in NetSuite, and how much do you need to actually set up as part of that project to get going?
Sure. So, when we think about this screen, every customer in the world has this screen. So it's not a matter of configuring the screen. That's already done. It's more about us connecting up to NetSuite, and then we've already got the saved searches, so we're able to very quickly extract this information. And assuming you've got minimum order quantities and order multiples set up in NetSuite, they will be they'll immediately be visible in NetStock the next day. NetSuite is our most powerful. I would say it's a very powerful integration, and this comes through very quickly. It's more about when I look at something like the supply risk, I'm very quickly able to see this level of information. And if our team sees strange values with your purchase order history, then we're like, hey, it's 2023. I'm seeing open purchase orders from 2019 here. Maybe there's a bit of data cleanup there. And when we look at, for example, product counts, a big part of the project is actually understanding what do you intend to stock. In that manufacturing environment, are you making to order? So you're buying raw materials after orders come in? Are you making to stock, and therefore you really want the raw materials available to manufacture at the same time? Do you intend to hold the finished good, or do you intend to quickly manufacture / assemble the finished good once the order comes? There's a bunch of discussions around stocking for that, but that's really quite, we have tools to help people get through that part of the process quickly. So you can actually see that we could turn this on and we can tell you what we think our recommendation would be, or we can literally generate a report to help people get through that in a timely way. In terms of getting the data in, Ananda, it's okay. We get connected, we can actually see the status of your inventory very quickly. Whether you're a single business or whether you've got a NetSuite set up with multiple subsidiaries, we've been exposed to businesses of all sizes. Yeah,
great. Okay. And I'm right in thinking that your project's really, once the data's in, it's about that onboarding and getting you used to the product and the user adoption, and heavy business process sort of sessions as you do on the ERP side.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we've got over well over 500 customers here in Australia and New Zealand alone.
Yeah.
And a large percentage on NetSuite. So we're very skilled in working with what the system can do, creating more enhanced save searches to get more out of it for businesses that are looking to progress to another level of detail in their operations.
Great. We did do the other polls. There's guys interested in raw material ordering, forecasting. So I think we've touched on those areas, so that's good.
Yep. Give me a second. I'm going to pull up a projection. One of the other types of things that kind of fits in this piece around, we saw an individual product, we saw the order screen. This is the stock projection for the, this is currently set up for a single location, but here's the forecast for a location alone for the year ahead. You can see there.
I'm not going to share again. The
am I
share
not
just dropped.
sharing?
Yeah, just dropped out for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do
All
that.
good.
So here I've loaded the projection, and that projection's kind of taking all of these things around, whether it's a raw material or a finished good, what's its current stock availability, knowing the lead time that, assuming you've got the lead time set up in NetSuite, that's great. If it's not set up, well, we can set up our system to actually use measured lead time and then give you those recommendations to either update NetSuite or literally run NetStock off of how we're measuring your lead time. But you can see this business has probably a 3-month lead time. Well, no surprise, you can't instantaneously get your fill rate from 90% to 96. And therefore, that's why the lead time is going up slowly over time. But with that, they also get the benefit of their inventory redistributing. They're starting the year with 1.6 million in excess stock. They're projected to finish their year with 925. And of course, that's going to depend on forecast accuracy and being able to sell through sell through materials that may be slowing down. But of course, having it there, having it visible, both in the projection from a financial viewpoint, as well as on the dashboard itself, allows for those questions to get asked. Why are we sitting on so much right here? NS, well, that basically means non-stock. We don't intend to hold this as inventory. The customers are supposed to order it so the customer places an order with you, and then you place the back-to-back order with your supplier. Of course, in this particular case, that's not what happened. Somebody brought a whole bunch in. You're not intending to do that again, but it's going to take a while for those customer orders to come in to pull that inventory down so that you're actually truly at zero. And having those types of discussions, sometimes I go into a business and the top 5 is a huge percentage of the excess stock. In some businesses, it's not. It's a lot of little things. And really just trying to get used to ordering to a policy is a big part of that for that business.
Just had a question come through, Mark. What's your ideal customer look like with NetStock? Do you look at how much inventory they've got, the complexity of the build of those items, or industry? What does it look like?
Sure. So, a walk in the park is a single wholesaler with one location. That would be great. And I would love to believe that I'm going to make $1 gazillion on it. Of course, businesses are more complex. And I've got retail customers with dozens of locations. I've got manufacturing companies that have single manufacturing or multi-site manufacturing or a single level BOM or a multi-layer BOM. And really the product's capable to meet those. But if you have less than $1 million in inventory, the payback's probably not going to be there for the cost of the tool. We have got customers at that $1 million of inventory level, right up to customers with hundreds of millions of dollars in inventory. We do price our product typically based upon your inventory level. We find that's a good proxy for the complexity of your business. Of course, there might be some exceptions if you've got some very complex additional things that we need to consider. But we would get into that in a more detailed demo where we'd understand that from a discovery point of view. I should probably add that if you want to get into a whole nother level of forecasting as well as capacity management, we have a whole nother tool available, and we'd happy to discuss that. But I thought this is actually a great place to start, because this is actually where a lot of customers start with NetStock. They do grow, they do mature over time, and we do help them evolve. But I've got companies that literally have hundreds of $millions of inventory using this tool. I've got global EV charger company that's got incredibly complex BOMs that's using this tool and having the ability to see that line of sight across their extended supply chain. And the fact that every day they can come in and understand is really being driven by NetStock, is what you're seeing here today.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I guess the same philosophy as NetSuite, where you've got a product that scales as you scale. So, but that's great. Great to have that starting point of where we. I guess it comes up with the other question that there is around. I've done everything in a spreadsheet for years. When do I make the switch? I'm comfortable managing my 2 million of inventory in a spreadsheet. Any kind of thoughts and advice around that?
Well, yeah, I mean, and we're well used to dealing with those businesses. But of course, if that's the planner who's been doing it for 20, 30 years, if that planner takes a vacation, if that planner retires, do you have the knowledge baked into your business, right? One of the benefits of having things like this classification set up is the system's there to drive more productivity, but also the system's there so that you're not reliant on just one person for the knowledge on how to run the business. You've actually got something that gives broader insight, and that person who's got all that knowledge, if we can actually free them up to make decisions on, for example, we want to be at 96.3%, but we're at 85, right? A 9% improvement in something that sells $1.4 million a month should be the real focus, right? Like, that's actually what we don't want to be missing, is that 9% of sales. More than anything else in here, we say, oh, okay, well, I mean, there's a lot of dollar values here, but actually there's not that many products here comparatively to the 3,500 materials we have stocked. We focus on these 135, we're going to drive value. And so what's happening, right? What is the potential stock out or stocked out inventory? And if we drive into that in more detail, what's going to help us, right? And that's really about the progression, right? Now we're bringing a lot more insight to it, and we're getting to the value-driven discussion much sooner.
Yeah, and it's the other argument is you may have something in your model that isn't in your current spreadsheet. So you're obviously fine-tuning your solution based on what you see in the market, what you learn from other industries. So that's a huge benefit.
Yeah.
It's again, same philosophy as NetSuite. Bringing those leading practices that you learn from other industries, other businesses, how they use the system. So huge benefits.
Yeah, it's you just exactly in line with how you mentioned that, right? I helped get this installed at a large electricity wholesaler, electrical equipment supply company, and his planners said multiple times, they're like, okay, I knew what I needed to do with the SKUs that I knew about. But of course, Netstock's pointing out all the additional SKUs that they didn't realize they had a risk on.
Yeah.
By the same token, we've rolled out our opportunity engine in the last year. And again, trying to serve the information up on a silver platter so that people can make decisions, right? We are all struggling to keep up with keep enough labor in our businesses. So making it easy for people to understand where to focus and onboard and come up to speed is really a core part of our philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Show me more.
Yeah, that is flavor of the month, isn't it? AI. So it's good to see you're looking at it, even though it's in its infancy. A question's come through about the sync. Is that on demand or is it a schedule? Is it overnight?
Well, I mean, it's set up to run overnight. I've got a bunch of businesses that choose to refresh at lunchtime every day. And their businesses are of a size that's no problem. When you start getting to talk into hundreds and thousands of skulls or stock keeping units by location, then that stops being an option, right? And the truth is that as much as people want to see stuff on demand, when you're talking about planning, you need some level of stability in that plan, and constantly refreshing doesn't actually give you the stability you need to make a decision.
It's a good point. Yeah.
So, sorry, that's the projection module. I was just trying. We also put this executive dashboard in that shows you a lot more value, a lot more information around what's happening, what's selling, how's the inventory, what's the usage. So a lot more information. And these are just a couple enhancements that rolled out in the past year. We take a lot of pride in continuing to evolve the product over time as well.
Right. And then I guess the future of NetStock, is there anything else coming down the roadmap that you're excited about?
Sure. We've got a whole reporting section here where we've helped customers get reports specific to their business. We're about to roll out a report writer so the customers can choose to write their own reports that are a little bit just for them, so they can make some of those self-driven. Another thing that's really exciting for multi-site businesses and a real point of pain financially is, hey, I brought all this, let's say I brought a whole bunch of material in during COVID, but South Australia demand dried up before Queensland or whatever. Of course, the demand for Queensland is typically, supply for Queensland is normally coming from overseas, but our new redistribution module is going to help people see very quickly how much they can fulfill by transferring from other locations inside their own network. And it's really great user interface, make it easy for people to make a decision quickly and save a fortune.
Brilliant. And when can we get our eyes on that one?
So report writer, I think, is literally weeks away. The redistribution module should be in the next quarter.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. I kind of dived right into questions. Was there anything else to present? Can we just
no, I think we've been pretty well in line with what I wanted to cover today.
There's just a couple more.
Yeah.
You kind of touched on it before, on where there might be data missing from NetSuite that you identified in NetStock. Is there some sort of exception monitor that helps you with that? Because I guess the question is, this is cool, this product, but what can I do now to get ready for that transition from my spreadsheet or from NetSuite's own demand planning to use something like NetStock? Is it all about data cleansing and...
Look, the data cleansing process is part of the onboarding, but I guess I want people to understand that we're very used to dealing with people at a variety of levels. Some people are quite mature in this. Like I said, maybe you've got a hierarchy in NetSuite today, and that's great. Some of this doesn't become clear until you start using a tool like this. So you start using NetStock, you say, gee, I'd actually like to see not just one production line worth, I'd actually like to see Work Center 1 and Work Center 2. Okay, we can advise you on what you need to set up. And then all of a sudden, the system, the next day after you get it set up, NetStock will give recommendations not just for a production line, but for Work Center 1 and Work Center 2. Or you say, you know what, I've been looking at the category. If I had a subcategory available, fine. You create that subcategory in NetStock, in NetSuite. The next day, after we update our saved searches, we'll see that subcategory available. You'll be able to do searches in NetStock at that level of detail. I think people sometimes think they need to spend a whole bunch of time possibly being ready to one day start a project. Our point is, because we can do things like measure lead time, we've got the data monitor to tell you where we see the data needs to be improved, and we can run off of our recommended stocking indicators in advance of you setting stocking indicators. We're actually prepared to make that change very quickly with you now, and then you get to evolve over time as you get better. And you get the benefit of already getting the visibility now, as opposed to getting the visibility someday, right? Like, I think that's exactly where people get into trouble. Is, oh, I should make this change. Yeah, I could start when I... It's like, dude, we can actually help you with those changes, help you with the visibility now, and help you prioritize what are the biggest things that are going to make a difference in your specific business.
Yeah, and I think it helps you understand and learn the product more. If you do have a few gaps in your day, if everything's perfect, you're not going to learn anything, and you won't see any value really. So, but that's great that it does identify quick wins to improve your visibility and trust as well in the data. And then just on NetSuite, so NetSuite's obviously got its demand planning module. I've got it now. I'm thinking about it. Where's the tipping point in that space to maybe look more at a NetStock. Any comments there?
Well, the feedback we get from our customers is that our information is very clear. We can quickly adjust policy. You saw that little that policy override screen. So I can make a policy change today in NetStock, refresh the system, and see the impact on my recommended orders or on my projected inventory for the year ahead. And the ability to quickly get insight from NetStock is really why we're here, right? We're bringing in all this information, not just that's in NetSuite, but also all of our additional algorithms that drive additional visibility that brings in a different level of richness that allows people to make better decisions faster.
Great. Well, thank you, Mark. That was really in depth, and I think obviously we can extend that on a more personal level with these customers. Would be great. So huge thank you to Mark and the team in the background that helped put this together, and on my side as well. Huge thank you to yourselves for joining. And as I said earlier, it's all recorded, so if your colleagues couldn't jump on, we'll be sharing that through the various socials. The NetStock guys have also uploaded a brochure you can download from this portal, or we'll share that as well out. And look forward to meeting one-on-one and just going through your specific requirements. So thanks everyone, and have a good day.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.